Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. You can change the language of this podcast in the YouTube video settings. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why your ex is done with you. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing why your ex is done with you. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will likely be wondering if they're done with you. In today's podcast, I'm discussing 3 points to consider about why your ex is really done with you. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is in this moment. Now let me know in the comments if you believe that your ex has gone for good. Let me know in the comments and let's see what the community thinks. And point number 1 is in this moment. And that is because we live in the moment. We feel in the moment. We speak in the moment. So is your ex-dumper done with you right now? Well, if you're not with them in a relationship, the answer is yes, connected to the fact that in this moment, they are done with you. Now, this is no guarantee to how they may be feeling further down the line. Just as unfortunately, it was no guarantee that when you said your vows on your wedding day, or if, for instance, maybe you never got married but you had been living together for a number of years, you paid for a mortgage, you agreed upon things which in both of your minds was forever. At that moment, in that moment, you believed this was going to be your partner forevermore, and they felt the same. Unfortunately, things didn't work out that way. Your now ex-dumper lost romantic emotional attraction for you. And when that level of attraction hit the necessary low point, they actioned the breakup. But what we can see from that is thoughts, feelings, and expectations change. So if they can change in that negative sense from being in love with you to not being in love with you, certainly not romantic love right now, well, there is always a possibility that further down the line, things might change. But in this moment, your ex is done with you. And the reason we know they are done with you is because they are not in that relationship with you right now. And if you were to consider why this might be the case, well, there are an almost endless list of possibilities as for why your ex-dumper lost romantic emotional attraction. That is why you are in this position. But this position is current. It is the contemporary current position. It's not the position of in 6 months' time, a year's time, 2 years' time. It doesn't mean you can wait around. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be living your life. It doesn't mean your ex is definitely coming back. Because as we are saying in today's podcast, your ex-dumper is done with you right now. Those feelings are authentic. Unfortunately, those feelings are true. Those feelings were true when they said, I do, if you got married in the past. But now they're also true that they don't want to see you. So we have to respect their decision. We can't persuade them. We can't beg. We can't plead. We can't try and say, hey, we are meant for one another. Don't you understand? We should be together. We make sense. Well, you don't make sense in their mind currently. You can't force the issue. You can't persuade someone to be in love with you. This needs to be something that they come to a conclusion of themselves through the feelings which hopefully they will build over time. Now you might wonder whether this will ever happen, and nobody can tell you for certain, but you can increase your chance of success by living your life in the right way. It doesn't mean you will get your ex back, but it does mean you stand a much better chance of getting your ex back. So whereas right now in the moment your ex is done with you, the future beyond this point is unwritten, it's unknown, and it might be the case that in the future your ex isn't actually done with you. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please give this video a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is when you run out of credit. So today we're speaking about when your ex-dumper is done with you. And point number 2 is something that everybody needs to understand. Everybody needs to get their head around. And that is the fact that they will be done with you if you run out of credit. But what is this credit? Well, this is something I refer to as emotional bond credit. And it's built up over time and milestones. So let's break that down. Time is the first element of emotional bond credit. And I suppose it is exactly as it sounds, exactly as it seems. The time you and your ex were together is certainly going to increase the credit which has been earned during this emotional bonding time. So time is in the literal sense. So for instance, if you were together for 3 months, you have earned less of this emotional bond credit than if you had been together for 3 years. Or if you've been together for 30 years, you've earned even more of this credit than if you'd been together just a few. But it isn't just in a literal sense. Time is not about the time you were together, quote unquote, as a couple necessarily, but also the time you are physically in each other's space. Now, there are caveats to this. People who literally live in each other's pockets are probably going to hit their own challenges and difficulties. I believe you should have an active social life. You should have a life almost away from the relationship, but you must be spending quality time with your partner. If you are in a situation where maybe you've been together 10 years, but you never really see each other, maybe it's because you work different shift patterns, maybe it's because you both have very different social lives, but to the extreme of where you are neglecting your relationship, well, that isn't going to help you. But probably the focal point of this side element is if you are long distance. People might say to me, for instance, well, I was with my ex for 5 years. Doesn't that mean I've built a lot of this emotional bond credit? Well, unfortunately, even if you've been together 5 years, even if you had spoke on the phone every single day, it is not worth as much as being in each other's physical space. So if you lived so far apart that in that 5 years you only saw each other 5 times, maybe for a few days in each instance, that is not going to be earning you the emotional bond credit that perhaps you believed it would be. And you might be thinking, well, I was together 4 years. But if you are not physically in each other's space for a good sustained period of time, well, sadly, you're not going to be putting that credit in the bank. So this is something you need to consider for yourself. How long was your relationship in literal terms? And how often and frequently did you see one another? Did you live together? If you didn't, how often did you meet? Now again, you don't want to be doing this too far the other way of where you live in each other's pockets. That will cause its own problems. But you do need to be together a lot of the time. This is how you build that emotional bond credit. But it's not just time. Not just time in a literal sense, not just time in a physical sense, but it is also milestones. Because as I said, emotional bond credit is built up over time and milestones. So milestones are things such as getting married, are things such as having a baby together. These types of life milestones really increase that credit that is in the bank. Now, everything that I say, we have to understand it is not just black or white. It is multiple shades of grey. So for instance, sometimes people might say to me, okay, so if my relationship is struggling, should we have a baby together to bring ourselves closer together? Well, anybody who has had a baby would realise how challenging it is. The lack of sleep just being one example. And hence, you should not have a baby together unless you have a rock solid relationship. Because if you don't, it's actually going to blow your relationship apart. So it's not as if getting married or having a baby, as I've just described, is a magic bullet to getting that credit in the bank and you being together forever. But if it happens in a natural way, a way which feels right, a way which builds upon your relationship and is not used as some type of savior, your relationship is struggling, so let's get married. Your relationship is struggling, so let's have a baby. That's not going to help. But if your relationship is moving along at a good pace, it feels natural, it feels right, then having these milestones, such as having a baby, getting married, etc., that is going to earn emotional bond credit. This is where it all gets banked. The length of time, the time you were together physically, the milestones you have achieved together. Okay? These things are going to put you in a really strong position that if unfortunately you were to break up, there could be a possibility that you can reconnect. But every time you have a situation or an incident, maybe a full-on breakup, you are spending some of that credit. And that is what point number 2 is all about. Remember, we're talking about today when your ex is done with you. And point number 2 is when you run out of credit. So you may have earned a lot of credit, or perhaps you're listening to this and you realize, actually, we didn't earn a lot of credit together in our specific relationship. Well, every time there are problems, every time you make a mistake, every time, sadly, there might be a breakup, this is costing credit. Now, maybe you are in a situation where you've had 3 breakups and you've always got back together, but every time you went through a breakup, you're spending that credit. And that credit is getting less and less and less in the bank. And when you run out of credit, that is when your ex is done with you. And in that type of instance, you might never be able to get your ex back again. Now, perhaps you've never actually had a breakup, but unfortunately, there have been constant problems, constant mistakes have been made, and things are just really grinding you down. Even you can feel the grind, let alone your now ex-dumper. It gets to the stage where maybe there wasn't actually a breakup beforehand, but all of his credit has been used up, and therefore, if a breakup then takes place, it's going to be very hard indeed to reconnect. Now, nothing is impossible. I would never say, well, that is impossible. You can never, ever, ever get your ex back, because I have heard over the years of many crazy instances where it just wouldn't seem possible, and yet it still was. However, we have to look at things in a statistical sense. And if you run out of credit, you are in the very, very low percentage points of being able to reconnect. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is you aren't their best option. So today, we've been speaking through the thoughts and the facts about why your ex is done with you. And point number 3 is something where we have to really take accountability, look in that mirror and ask ourselves, are we our ex's best option? And if you are not the best option for your ex-dumper, they are done with you. Because if you aren't that person who's going to be their number one, then why would they be with you? And you might think, well, we should be together, but be honest, be understanding to the fact. If you saw someone that you deemed quote unquote better than your ex, would you really be wanting your ex back? The only reason you are is you don't think you can find someone better. Because if you did, all of a sudden, you wouldn't be as needy of that concept. So it goes for your ex as well. If they are with somebody else right now, or maybe they're just out there dating, and you're wondering, Why don't they just come back to me? Why can't we just get back together? Well, they don't see you as their best option. If they did, they would be with you. If they're not with you, then they don't. So if you aren't your ex's best option, they are done with you. And as I said in point number 1, this is in the moment. So things can change. Things can develop. You can work on yourself, become a version 2.0, become a better person today than you were yesterday, and a better person tomorrow than you are currently today. Live your life in a way where you are the most attractive option to them. It doesn't just mean in a physical sense, although that is part of it. It means in all ways. You must be their number one option. And although it might sound somewhat obvious, I think this point is often just disregarded and not even really considered when people want their ex back. Ask yourself the question, are you your ex's best option? And be honest. Let me know in the comments. Be honest. Are you right now their best option? There is no shame in admitting you're not. It could be exactly what you need to start pushing you forward to become their best option. Now, this doesn't mean you should just focus on your ex. You should be the best version of you, and the byproduct of which is hopefully your ex will then see you as their best option, just as all of the new people who you might see in your life could think of you as well. So it's not just about trying to get your ex back. It could be about finding that person that's even better. And remember what I said at the beginning of point number 3. If you saw someone that you believed was a better option than your ex, you wouldn't be spending so much time thinking of your dumper. So the twist on this is, if you put in the effort to become your best self, then you will attract other people as well as hopefully your ex, and you might then decide, actually, I was kind of doing this for my ex, even though I shouldn't really be focusing on them, and now I find out there's better people wanting me than them, and hence, I don't want my ex back.